So I'm start recording here. Let's go ahead and hop into the games real quick. So I'm gonna ask y'all like, what direction do y'all want to go in? Do y'all want to talk about what happened prior to what the games that are going on right now, or do y'all want to talk about what's current? Like, matter of fact, let's start this way. So we'll start with what did you guys think of, kind of, I guess you could say, the collapse of the Phoenix Suns, right? Like, they were the number one seed. They had the best record all year. Everybody was playing great. We're ranting and raving. We're thinking, they're going to run it back for another championship this year and finally get it done, because, we all know they lost last year. So we're thinking they're going to get it done this year. And then they lose in the conference semis, blow a 2-0 lead. You know what I'm saying? Luka played out of his mind, obviously. So James, I'll start with you. Like, what were your thoughts about that series, and what do you think went wrong for the Suns for them to lose 4 straight?
Yeah, man. So that was crazy to me. I mean, during the season, I was looking at them like, oh man, they're gonna go all the way. Like, I didn't think that they would blow teams out, but I didn't think that they would go more than 6 games in the series. And as I was looking at the matchup, I definitely didn't see them losing to Luka, because the Suns are definitely a more complete team. And it was definitely shown. But the thing about this that's like huge is your profile, it matters when people can start to prepare. And there are certain things about people's profiles that can be exposed over time in a way that makes it so that you can literally start strategically outdoing someone game by game. And I can give you an example. Chris Paul and Devin Booker, right? Devin Booker is not a great playmaker, and they exposed him for that. So what they did was they kept blitzing and switching, and they would do these soft zones, and he couldn't read where to get the actual passes. And there's a couple breakdowns of this where there's these openings that are clear across court, and because his lack of playmaking and confidence, he's not throwing that across. He's faking it, and then he's throwing the ball to his teammate who's closest to him to try to skip it over that way. But by that time, Dallas had already
then it collapsed. Yeah.
And so it was just stuff like that. And then with like Chris Paul, what they exposed about Chris Paul is terrible off the ball. Chris Paul makes with the ball in his hand, but he's not a spot up 3-point shooter. He's small, so close out on him and get a contest easier. And so what they started doing was they started doubling Booker, and they started leaving CP open out on the perimeter. And when CP didn't have the ball in his hands, he wasn't effective. It was like playing 5-on-4, and they exposed that. So never adjusted. So as I was watching that and seeing that unfold, now that Game 7 blowout, I don't know what the hell that was. Like, they got punched in the mouth so quick, and it was like they just didn't respond. That was crazy.
Yeah, definitely. What do you what about you, Jalen? What are your thoughts?
First off, I'm a Lakers fan, so I was hating. I was hating on them from the jump anyway, due to them putting us out. I think they put us out the first round of the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
So, but like James said, though, it didn't seem like anyone could really see them, you know what I'm saying, in those series, just because it was pure basketball. And Devin Booker, he definitely had a look in his eye. Maybe a couple of weeks ago, he wasn't missing. They looked like they was grooving. But I guess I think their secondary really ain't show up either, though.
Yeah, they didn't get along. They didn't get a lot of production from their bench, for sure.
Yeah, and that hasn't really been talked about, but they didn't really get a lot of help off the bench. And I think, it really just had a lot to do with Luka, man. Like, unfortunately, he ain't gonna go there, James. I'm sorry, I don't even mean to do that, but I really do feel like he was.
I was gonna say, I don't think it was so much like I think a strategy on anybody but maybe Jordan or Kobe is let them get theirs. Just don't let nobody else get theirs. And for me, the difference was like all the rest of the players, like like I went back and I watched the breakdown that they did of just them defensively. The way Dallas played defensively, if you can get all my role players to play like that, I got a chance every day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? Their center, Bertans or whatever like that, he's out there on the perimeter not getting beat. If you tell me my center is not going to get beat by the guards when we switch, that's
house
game.
money. Yeah, that's house money. That's house money.
And that was something that wasn't happening with Dallas. Luka was cooking Aiden, right? He's the center on the other side, and Aiden's more athletic, but Aiden could get cooked.
There was a few times where Aiden got bodied by Luka. Like there was a couple of times where Luka put that arm in his chest, and I was like, "Well, wait a minute, like that's not what's supposed to happen."
Yeah, he was literally hunting.
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
yes, he was.
He was hunting him on pick and roll. He was hunting him on switches and pick and roll. As soon as he saw him come up, he would do that point, and they would make that switch, and Ayton would have to come out, and he would cook him every single time.
Every time.
Single time. And it wasn't even just him. It was really he honestly took turns on all of the Suns players from Ayton to Booker. He got Booker quite a few times. He got Chris Paul quite a few times. Cameron Johnson, Brian tried to tell him, be humble. He didn't listen. Brian tried to tell him.
Yeah.
Hey, he tried to tell him.
I'm talking about Payne. I'm talking about the tall dude with the afro.
Like, you talking about? Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I mixed them up. I was talking about that's Cameron Payne. You're right. I mixed them up.
I feel like he's so sore right now, man.
But this the thing, bro, about these playoffs, bro. It's about matchups. If you can, if you can set up a mismatch, right? Like if I can come down court and I can say, okay, what are they gonna play me, man, or are they gonna switch everything on screens? Like me as a guard, I'm coming down and I'm already want my screener to kind of meet me almost half court, so I can down here.
Yep.
You give me a head of steam, I'm gonna cook. Either I'm gonna pass to the open person, or I'm gonna get in the lane of a floater, or get all the way to the cup. Right? That's how a guard is. If we come up and the screener, as soon as my man screens for me, they switch, and the guy that's guarding me when we switch, I can take him every time. What are you talking about? That's Luka. Like I'm just coming down the court, I create my mismatch, and everybody else just stands back and watches me work. You cannot win when somebody can create a mismatch on every single possession. And if you look at the other way, they didn't have that. Chris Paul doesn't have an advantage where you're saying, oh, if you just leave me like this. Now, what they was doing in the beginning games, they were hunting Luka. But this is what they did. This is what Dallas did. Dallas put Luka down like almost like high post to like free throw line. And what he would do is he hedge. Like what people consider hedging is like when you come around the screen, I show like I'm gonna pick you up to guard you.
But then I flat. Yeah.
And then I go back to
flash
the man.
Down,
So now you can't hunt me on the switch because as soon as you kick, I'm gonna do the same thing every time. That's where they made the adjustment. The Suns didn't make the adjustment. Trying to hunt that mismatch wasn't working. So they actually didn't have a mismatch anywhere on the court.
Right. So what is go ahead, Jaylen?
Who do you guys think won that series? Was it Jason Kidd or was it Luka?
Jason Kidd.
It was Jason Kidd. Yeah, it was Jason. It was the adjustments because like James was saying, like Dallas made adjustments after those first two games that they lost. And they said, okay, this is what they're trying to do. If we can cut this off, if we can, and to use James' word, if we can hedge this kind of in a sense, then we have a fighter's chance. And if we can make sure that Chris Paul doesn't get to the mid range, because that's where he does most of his damage. So if we can cut off that side of the court where he doesn't get to the mid range, we make him go left, and we wear him down on as far as defensively, like where we make him work. We got a fighter's chance because Devin Booker he's not going to carry it home because like James said, he's not a playmaker. He's a great scorer, but he's not a playmaker. He's not like a Giannis or a Bron or a KD where pretty much whatever they need to do for their team to win, he's going to be able to do that. Devin Booker doesn't have that ability yet. And I'm not saying that he can't develop it, but that's just not something that's his strong suit.
Why wasn't he
So
able to get on shot in the last 2 games though? Like he usually does.
because they started doubling. They
Yeah,
started doubling.
they
And he's
started
not he's not he normally plays a lot of, for whatever reason, he plays a lot of, well, because they have Chris Paul, but he plays a lot of one-on-one. But once they realize if we can stifle Chris Paul and force Devin Booker to be a playmaker like a Chris Paul, we got a fighter's chance. And so that's why they got back in the series.
100%. Because see, this is the thing too, right? That again, this is a wing game. They're wing 6'6", 6'7". Devin Booker's only 6'4", right?
Exactly.
Chris Paul's on. But so what they were doing is, remember, I was giving you an example of coming across court. I'm coming across that court, and I want the screen so that I can get downhill. What they did was, that's what Chris Paul was doing. Chris Paul do that. They would trap him to get the ball out of his hands. Now they go back into a soft, like kind of like zone man, and they, as soon as they kick it to Booker, because of course, okay, we can't get Chris Paul. They're trapping him, getting the ball out of his hands. Okay, we'll go to Devin Booker. Now they're doubling Booker, and they're doubling with Chris Paul's man and leaving him open, like wide enough in the corner. Okay, Chris Paul can't, he ain't big enough to be free throw line, and he's got to stay out on the 3-point out as an outlet.
Right.
You get him the ball, you taking precious time off of the clock, and they can't get into a rhythm.
So they pretty much they sped him up in a sense.
Yes, 100%.
Go ahead, Jay. I'm sorry. What were you saying, Jay?
Oh no, I said what happened to Jay Crowder?
He's not that guy.
So much. That's a spot up shooter, bro. They I don't want to run my offense through Jay Crowder or Miles because they're not playmakers. That's what makes Chris Paul so perfect for this team, because he can facilitate and put people in their sweet spots.
Right.
What gets exposed is when Chris Paul's body starts breaking down later in rounds, because other people can't make on their own. Now they're in this position. Okay, well, now I got to create something.
Yeah.
They're naturally not in their role. Bridges trying to do ISOs. I'm like, I'll take that.
Yeah.
If I'm not the team, I'm taking that all day. Go ahead, whatever you're gonna do. If it go in, that's lucky.
Yeah, well, like you said, we'll take that. So, speaking of Chris Paul, guys, what do you guys think that this series says about Chris Paul's legacy, like in its totality? Because that's kind of been the conversation, at least as far as sports media and sports radio this past couple of days. It's like, how does this make Chris Paul look? Like, how do we view Chris Paul? Is it different? Should he still be considered one of the top point guards? Being that he's blown multiple 2-0 leads, and being that he's never won a Game 7, like. What are your guys' thoughts now about, like I said, about Chris Paul and, I guess what his legacy is or isn't, or what it should be, or, what I'm saying? Like, what do you guys think?
What you think, Jay?
I'm kind of torn too, because I do respect his skill. I also respect his size. A lot of players his size can really dominate a game.
Yeah.
But I mean, with the mentality and the will to win, which I've seen him impressive and speaks volumes. I think a lot of players, a lot of real ballers or hoopers really respect him.
Right.
But as far as, probably how the fans of these organizations feel, they just like, dang, every time we get, we get that close, you just hold on us, and honestly, I wasn't watching him with New Orleans, wasn't watching him in the early Clipper days. So I guess all I have seen was, him after that, playing his role during, maybe the regular season in the first 2 rounds, and that's it. As far as playoff Paul, but I definitely think he's had his chances though.
Yeah. What about you, James?
Man, I think he is definitely. I'm an old school cat, and I don't like to leave out cats like Oscar Robertson. Like I after going back and doing extensive research, like I really respect historical players in a way where I'm just not willing to just throw new people in there. But he's definitely top 10. He might be in the top 5 for me all time, and that's even without a ring. And these are reasons why I say this. Like, I think Chris Paul has been a victim of circumstance, and I know you got to play the cards you dealt, but I think you put any other like superstars in his position, and I don't think they even fare as well. And I'll give you an example. He went to the Pelicans when the Pelicans didn't have nothing, right? Mm-hmm. He made the Pelicans relevant, and he literally led them to 50-win seasons where his second best player was David West.
That's right? A good point.
Like,
that's a good point.
They almost upset Spurs. Like, this is like I'm old.
Yeah, yeah. I remember this. I remember this. I'm not too far behind you.
So you know, I take that, right, and I think like New Orleans never put the right team around them, just like they didn't with Anthony Davis, right? They were a little bit better there, but so Chris Paul had it worse, where they were not putting pieces around him where he could, if he just had a decent, like 2 decent wings and a more stout supporting cast, you could have made New Orleans a top 4 team, right? So, okay, he leaves that situation after years, 5-6 years, something like that, right? Mm-hmm. He goes to the Clippers. The Clippers are historically the worst organization ever. They literally had in their first 30, 40, 50 years, three playoff appearances, right? He goes there and he makes them perennial contenders every single year in that window. Mm-hmm. And to be completely real, like, again, he's the number 1 option. His second option is a guy who's literally skill set was in the first half of it. Somebody like Blake Griffin. Think about how quickly Blake Griffin's, those type of power forwards are extinct. You don't need them in the NBA no more. We don't do the stretch 4 anymore. You might as well just put a 6'7" small forward out there. Now small ball, right? Mm-hmm. And though Griffin did adjust his game, and there was a 2-year stretch where he was extremely versatile and even an MVP candidate. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of Yao and Tracy. They never held yet.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Where they both got injured, or one or the other got hurt.
That's a really good point.
Right? We looking at what happens to Giannis. Giannis is the greatest player on the planet right now. But when you take away his second gun, that's hard because everybody has to move up, and now Drew Holiday got to be a 2. At this point in his career, he's not a 2, not on the championship winning team, right? So falls out of position, and when you have that, Clippers had a lot of that. And then think about how long he's extended his career. He went to the OK City Thunder. They left him there for dead. He made that a playoff team, right? People don't understand. He made the Rockets. The Rockets were the best version. James Harden's Rockets were the best versions of themselves when Chris Paul went there. That's the best percentage of winning, their offensive efficiency, everything across the board was better. He makes everything better everywhere he goes, and he's done that consistently at a 6-foot guard. Now, if your best player is a 6-foot guard, i.e. Iverson, you gotta get help or they're going to burn out, because that's a lot of somebody's body when they're going up against trees every night. That's a lot to ask. I would ask that of LeBron because he's a damn monster.
Yeah, right.
Right, but
right.
A guy having to take the most beatings because he's the one who has to have the ball in his hands the most. He's got to take the most shots. He's got to be our engine. That's a lot to ask. So we're getting all of we can out of Chris Paul. That's a lot to ask a 6-foot, 37-year-old man in a league where the average age is 26.
That's a good point. And I think Charles Barkley actually pointed that out as well. It's like you're asking a lot from a 37-year-old, like he's 6 foot. You know what I'm saying? Like he's getting older. He's aging, obviously. They definitely relied too much. I feel like they relied too much upon him. And that's kind of why the situation kind of went the way that it went as far as with these playoffs. But I do think that the disrespect to Chris Paul is kind of asinine because it's like everybody wants to be prisoners of the moment and have amnesia. And like you said, James, like forget that this is a guy that every team he's gone to, he's made him better. He's elevated them. He's put him in position, at least put him in position to win. Now, granted, we all know he doesn't have a championship. He hasn't won a ring yet, but they've been in contention every single time. They've gotten better every single time, every single year. So you can't overlook that or overstate that. But at the end of the day, you also have to consider this. It's like, it's too routine sometimes, I guess, with Chris Paul that his body breaks down around the same time every single year. And it's like, what's not happening? What aren't you doing? Like, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, there's always and it's always some kind of significant leg injury. And it kind of boggles my mind a bit because it's not like, he's not a Russell Westbrook where his game is predicated on athleticism. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like he's putting a bunch of wear and tear and he's just jumping through the roof on, pretty much every play. So it's like, what's happening? Like, why does this always happen the same time or around the same time every year that you can't continue? And then you kind of just, you leave people for dead pretty much almost in a sense, like, because, they're, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I want you to continue, but it's like it's nothing different than get a running back who gets the ball on every play, who gets hit every play. Over like after a while, like no matter how big you are, that wear and tear is different. So like for him, his usage is the highest on every team he's going. The ball always runs through him, every single team. So that means on most plays he has the ball in his hands. He's coming off the screens, people are hitting him, bumping him, sliding him. He's always having to exert. He's not the person who can, I'm going to sit in the corner and let my people do the work, and then I'm going to shoot this catch and shoot three and save my leg, save my body, not take no hit. He's basically taking a hit on every single play. Now it's like, oh, well, he's too good in the half court, so let's full court press him. How many times did y'all see, right?
Right.
Full court pressing him, like at 37 years old.
Alvarado. He was done from Alvarado.
Right. Yeah, he was. Because Alvarado was making him work.
That's something. And like, I don't know what else you can ask of him because there's nothing else he could possibly do. And I'll give you this. This is how we would argue that John Stockton and them went to the playoffs 18 years straight. They never missed. They only made it to 2 NBA finals, right? I think they were in like maybe 3 or 4 conference finals in 18 years. Right? That's Karl Malone and John Stockton together. Okay, both Hall of Famers, right?
Right.
Now take Karl Malone away, and you let John Stockton be the only Hall of Famer on his team, and ask him to take them all the way to the championship. That's what you're asking, because John
Stockton. A good point.
That's a good point. He's like top 3, top 4 point guards of all time, statistically, and if you just talk about career-wise. But he had another Hall of Fame player next to him. None of the players Paul is playing with, besides, James Harden, but Blake Griffin won't be in the Hall of Fame.
Devin Booker will probably be in the Hall of Fame.
His case is really shaky right now because he's not even making all NBA teams. See, like the combination.
That's true. That's a good point.
Right, you got to have the all NBA or all defensive with like an all-star appearance here and there, and then of course statistically be somewhere high in it. He has the points, but he doesn't necessarily have the accolades besides the run that he did with Chris Paul in the playoffs to kind of bolster that. So right now, Chris Paul has only genuinely played with one other Hall of Famer, and I would argue that James Harden is not a strong Hall of Famer. He's there by himself, but I don't want James Harden on my team because him as a profile, he's selfish and doesn't work hard and doesn't he doesn't try on defense. Like there's a lot of character flaws that I don't need in my locker room. So if you're gonna give me a Hall of Famer, give me one, give me a Hall of Famer, and then 2, give me one next to Chris Paul, and I guarantee you talking about multiple championships.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Next to Chris Paul?
Sorry?
Who next to Chris Paul?
I was just saying put a Hall of Famer. Just put one Hall of Famer next to him that's not bad for team chemistry. And that you're looking at a John Stockton and the Karl Malone situation, because that's what John Stockton had. He had another Hall of Famer who could take the pressure off of him sometimes when he didn't have it going.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that as well. And that's why I said that the talk about Chris Paul and how people are trying to diminish what he's done is asinine, because it's like we're acting as if this guy, you know what I'm saying, hasn't been a, you know, multiple year all-star, hasn't, you know what I'm saying, led his team, hasn't been the catalyst. And I mean, you know, it's unfortunate that he hasn't, you know, he's only had one opportunity, I guess, as a real opportunity at a championship. But Chris Paul is still like he's still one of the best point guards in the league, like, or I mean in history, really, like one of the best point guards in history, not even just in the league, but just in history, period. So being that we're on the topic of Chris Paul, I want to ask you guys this. I don't know if you guys saw this, but so has anybody seen Patrick Beverley on First Take?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What do you guys think about him saying that nobody fears the Suns and that they wanted them in the first round?
I wouldn't say I do know that, and as y'all know, I did predict that the Mavs would win Game 7.
You did.
I was.
Yes, you did.
I kind of was just. I mean, it just only made sense to me because I mean, and yeah, it looked like they were scared. I would be scared too, and that's what kind of Pat Bev was saying. You know what I'm saying? Like if you give Luka just one game and like y'all said, they've improved defensively as a team. You know what I'm saying? Not even just Luka, but you know what I'm saying, as a team defensively. If you just give them one game, I think they can beat. They literally have beat almost everybody in the league. So I think. If you get in one game, it was very much possible, and it just seemed like after that Game 6 that they was kind of deflated. So once that first once those first couple threes went in, you know, from at the beginning of Game 7, you could tell like, oh yeah, we got this. Like we're not finna get him that.
What do you say, James?
One, I thought he was being extremely biased. He's not being honest. That's some old bullshit. Like he's not being honest. I have a grudge against you, and there's no way I'm gonna look at it any differently than from that standpoint. And that's what Pat Bev comes from.
Listen, if I could high five you right now, James, if I could high five you right now, James, I would, because when I watched that, I literally was thinking the same thing. And matter of fact, on the show I was on earlier, I was like, the thing that you have to realize about what Pat Bev says is that he a hater, for one. Like Pat Bev he's a natural hater. That's just what he does. He
got up there.
Yeah, he was in like that. Like James said, it was the things that he was saying about Chris Paul. That's a personal grudge. That's not how the league looks at Chris Paul. That's not how players in the league look at Chris Paul. That's not how media looks at Chris Paul. You know what I'm saying? Even fans, whether you like him or you dislike him, nobody looks at Chris Paul that way. Like the way that he was talking about Chris Paul, like Chris Paul was JJ Redick. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we talk. I mean, Jay, we talk about JJ Redick, but like, you know what I'm saying? And that's no shot at him. But he was trying to. It almost made him feel like he was diminishing him to like a role player status. Like he wasn't who
like
he
him.
is. It's like, yeah, like he's there like him. Like, and I mean, and Matt Barnes, I don't know if y'all saw Matt Barnes' response, but that was great.
Yeah, that was
because
fire.
He was like, listen, you're not that guy like that. Like he even at his worst, he averages more than you. That was a bar in itself. Matt Barnes could have just stopped talking after that. He didn't even have to say nothing else, because that was a bar in itself. But also at the same time, though, I do think that there, even in the midst of him being a hater, there was some truth to some of the things that he was saying. And I'm not saying about like the Chris Paul situation, because I think all of that was cap. But when he talks about teams not fearing the Suns or not, you know, they're not really like nobody was really fearful of them. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because when he was kind of making the comparison, like when you play against Luka, like you kind of like, you know, you got to get up for that game because it's a Luka. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, he's going to come with a whole different kind of, you know, swagger, a whole different kind of game. But I agree with him on that sense. I don't think that a lot of people looked at Phoenix in that way, especially Luka, because Luka is who in his mind, who Luka thinks he is. He is. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when he comes out on well, I know you don't particularly care for him, but when he comes out on the court, when he has that mindset, that swag of I am who I think I am, it shows. And with Phoenix, it always felt like they were front running. You know what I'm saying? Like, they had this confidence, and it's like, but why though? Like, what exactly have y'all done to have all this confidence to feel like y'all are superior to everybody else?
They have a couple of good games.
Yeah, like I mean,
but they did win 64 games, bro. Like,
and
it's hard.
That's it is. No, it definitely.
There's
is.
only like 23 teams or 24 teams that have ever done it. So it's
sure.
very
definitely,
you know?
no, definitely, that's definitely. But it's one thing to win 65 games, but it's another thing to have this chip on your shoulder as if you had like one, like they're the Warriors basically. Like, they kind of had this swagger of like they were like kind of, because I mean, Golden State is cocky, but Golden State has Golden State has a right to be cocky. They have a right to talk the way that they talk. Phoenix was talking like that now, and it's like Pat Bev said, like, what have y'all done though?
I do like, and I get that, because I think that it's layered though, right? Because I think what you speak of is like almost like a historic intimidation, right? Like teams like the Lakers, it's just their name alone. When you know you facing the Lakers,
exactly.
So I get that, and like the Warriors, they got that over time, where it was like they kicked ass so long that you was just like, every time you went against them, you like, bro. But I think
off in the warm up.
Yeah, and I think like the big issue, like the way Pat Bev, I think like it kind of correlated cross.
Yeah.
Like the way he was saying, like, oh,
it's just the way he delivered the message. The message had truth to it. It's just the way that he delivered it. Yeah, because it was covered in like hate, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I don't think that anybody. I've been like, we done all hoops, right? Like, in school, when I played for the team and stuff like that, I was a pass first point guard. Like, I could score 20, but I really enjoyed like getting in the lane, and I could dish, and I could find anybody. And I was always like, I got to get more than 10 assists a game. So that was always my thing. People aren't embarrassed by that. That type of play is not embarrassing. When a nigga is like, when I start stepping back and shooting threes in your face and doing the type of things that Luka and Steph do, that's embarrassing. So I could understand, as a primary defender, you'd say, well, those are people I'm worried about. I'm not worried about you getting in the lane and dishing to somebody else and they making the shot, because that's actually not on me technically, right? I'm not actually getting cooked. Whoever just gets shot on is getting cooked. And so it's not the same thing. Like Chris Paul, because Chris Paul is doing this. I'll get you 4 points in the first quarter. I'll get you 4 points in the second quarter at this age, right? He's saying, I'm going to get you 4, that's 8. I'm not even going to shoot in the third quarter. I'm going to let everything play out. I'm going to get everybody facilitated. Fourth quarter, I'll get you 8 to 12 to bring it home. That's where I'm going to exert the rest of my energy. I'm going to play this right. I'm too old to be trying to go full throttle all game. If I know that on the other side as a primary defender, I'm not scared of that. It's effective and efficient as shit, and it's always worked. But I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about every single time you blitzing me and you LeBroning me, and every time you coming down, you blowing past me, going to the hole and dunking, or you pulling back, shooting the three, no matter how much I guard you. That's fucking embarrassing. It's embarrassing. I don't want that to happen. That's what's scary. So I think 20 points getting dunked on and embarrassed is completely different than 20 points that just kind of comes and you look up and you're like, oh, Al Horford, that's 20 points, right? We all know that, right? So that's what I think where he got it wrong, where the way he compared it. Chris Paul will never scare you in that way if he's going to use that.
I agree with that. Like I said, I think that there was truth in what he was saying. It's just the way that the way that he relayed the message is what is wherein lies the problem. It's because it's layered with so much other extra personal vendetta. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, people are not. It's kind of like when you have a disagreement with somebody and both of you are yelling and screaming. Both of y'all can have good points, but if we're screaming at each other, we're not catching the information because we're so focused on the volume of the voice, or we're so focused on the personal attacks, or we're so focused on, you know what I'm saying, like the demeaning, and so the message kind of gets lost in the sauce. And it's the same thing with the Patrick Beverley and Chris Paul situation. Like I said, there was a lot of things that he said during his spiel that were truthful, but because it's layered with so much bullshit, it's like it gets lost in translation, because it's like, I'm still focused on the cap ass that you just said. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not focused 100%. On the actual truth in it, because like I said, there's a lot of, no, Chris Paul isn't going to quote unquote scare you in that way, but I felt what he's saying as far as like the mental mind frame that you go into playing against the Phoenix Suns. I don't think a lot of teams went into it like, oh my God, we gotta play the Phoenix Suns. Like, we gotta make sure that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't feel that energy. Like you said, when people play the Warriors, you can see it in their face when they walk in. It's locked in. You know what I'm saying? Headphones in. I'm looking straight forward. Ain't no joking. Ain't no playing. Like, I'm gotta focus, because I know for 48 minutes I gotta deal with two light skins. I gotta deal with Draymond. They got
three now. Shit.
Jordan Poole. Yeah, I'm gonna say they got Jordan Poole. Like, they got there's a lot. Even when the Lakers were, you know, this season they were bad, but still, when people came into Crypto Arena, which is a dumb name, but when they came into that arena, it's still like, oh, we gotta play Brown, we gotta play AD, we gotta play Russ. Even people talk, you know, what they were talking about Russ, but still, they got up for that game because they knew what it could potentially be. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel like with Phoenix it was ever that way. Like, I don't feel like teams went into Phoenix and was like, oh man, damn, we gotta, you know what I'm saying? So, but they carried themselves with such a confidence that people should. And so I think that's more so what Pat Bev was saying. It's like, ain't nobody scared of y'all. Like, you know what I'm saying? But it's just the message is good. I guess it's just the wrong messenger, because I don't feel like he properly articulated what he was trying to say, because he put so much other extra little petty shit in there. You know what I'm saying?
No, 100%. And I actually think, as you were saying that, I thought, you know what it is, right? Because I think even the fact that they got to 60, I think they got to 60 for two kind of different reasons. One was because, of course, you know, you get that fire, you go to the finals the year before, like, you get a taste and you're like, shit, let's get back. They started off strong, so kind of moment. And them, for the most part, they were more healthy than most of the league, right? If you think about continuity, people playing together, playing with each other from the year before, most contending teams had either roster overhaul, they had new rosters, people
new
still
coaches,
trying to get, or they didn't have a healthy team. And so, like, go ahead, man, bro.
Officially clicked.
Yeah, you see,
chemistry,
everything, bro. You get a team that's already been together and they already kind of in the ebb and flows, and everybody else is still trying to figure it out.
Put it together. Absolutely.
But when the playoffs,
it's different. It becomes different because, like you said, you in the playoffs, your game plan for, because it's not you can't come into a playoff series and you can't sneak up on nobody at that point, because it's like, I got seven games to find a solution for you. Technically 4, because it's the first person who wins 4. So it's like, but I still have 4 games to come up with some kind of formula to, you know, to package against you to beat you. And same on the opposite end, you know what I'm saying? Like they coming in with the same strategy. So it's like, who can best who in 4 games? You know what I'm saying? And so
posed a couple times for not being physical either.
Who?
Phoenix. I don't think
they're not.
Oh, Word,
Because
bro.
if Luka Doncic is moving you around the way that he was moving the Phoenix players around, you got a problem. Your center shouldn't be getting bodied by a guard, bro. That shouldn't happen. There was like 3 plays where he hit Ayton right in the chest and shot over him. That shouldn't happen. I was like, there's no way that he's letting this slow ass. Like,
he was in his head, bro. He was in his head.
He was laughing and smiling. He was having so much fun. Like,
it was layered too. Like the worst person to have number 1 pick from the same draft, and the other guy on the other team is cooking you and cooking your whole team, and
the whole team. He was hunting everybody on the Suns. It wasn't just one person. He was hunting every single person on the Suns. Like, he was just literally picking. All right, this is who I want now. This is who I want now. This is who I want now. And I'm like, nobody can do nothing with this dude. Nobody.
Luka came in the same year.
Luka and Ayton.
Luka and Ayton, because they're the same. So what? So since we're talking about Ayton, what do you think happens with him next year? Because he was supposed to this was supposed to be the. I think so too. Because he was supposed to be, he was supposed to be trying to get, of course, his max dollars, but something happened between him and the coach because he didn't play a lot of minutes in the game 7, and Monty Williams didn't really elaborate. He was very kind of stern, or it was basically saying like it was an internal issue. He left it at that. So something must have happened. There must be some kind of rift between those 2 guys. But I mean, I agree with you, James. I think Ayton is gone. I think he's leaving. But if he does leave, where does he go?
I don't know. I think he should. I would hope for the league's sake, he goes somewhere that doesn't have an established star, and they just feed that nigga, because I believe he can be a number 1 option.
Mm-hmm.
But he would have to go to a team that was patient with him and that wasn't in a rush to contend. He's not great for a contending team. Huh?
Go to Portland.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. That would be interesting.
Because
him and Dame?
A lot more no. I wouldn't put him in Portland, because when you got a star at Dame's age and Dame needs this accelerated rebuild, and That's a good point. Right?
That's
so
a
now
really good point.
Oh, we got to get pieces around him that's going to be effective. You can't get on Portland right now and be a project. They don't want projects. They want people that can Dame now.
Because if Dame has one more project here, he's leaving Portland. I don't care what he says.
Yeah.
He gonna leave Portland.
I don't think they got enough money, but he could go to the Pelicans.
Ooh, that might be. But then you would have to get rid of Zion. I feel like, if that happens, because Zion, there's already been kind of this back and forth with Zion anyway, where like they're not really sold on if he wants to be there or not.
I think honestly right now okay, so this is my thing with Ayton real quick. Ayton, I would send his ass to Detroit, because Detroit's not in a rush to win. You got Cunningham coming up. Everybody's a project right now, and Cunningham needs a running mate. He needs somebody who can get to the ball too, and they are not pressed for wins. They're in no situation where there's no they can build this for 3 years, and if you give me a Ayton who continuously develops his game for 3 more years, I think he's a solid, because this is the thing right now. He's only really giving you like 18 and 10, right? I can go get 14 and 9 for half the price for a bargain deal. I can find a power forward / center who can get me 12 to points and give me 10 rebounds.
You think he wants more?
Not at the max, huh?
I said with him being that close, you know what I'm saying, and playing with vets like that, you think he wants to get back in the grind, or you think he wants to win right now?
I think great question.
Who are we talking about right now?
If he's ready for the grind,
okay.
like back to like go to a situation like Detroit and just kind of slowly
I don't think he wants that though. He doesn't strike me as the guy that's gonna grind it out. Like if you threw like
this nigga,
if you threw,
he may want it, but he ain't ready for it, and he's shown that twice now.
Go ahead.
Right? If there was ever a time Phoenix needed him, it was fucking now. We're not talking about a piece. We're talking about a nigga. You don't draft a nigga number one to be a complimentary piece. You draft him to take the fuck over the game.
I agree with that, but what I'm saying is he's not a guy that he's a situational player. Like he's a guy that needs to be in a not, I wouldn't say a perfect, but a situation that makes sense, that where he can excel. He's not a guy that you can stick in a upcoming franchise and he's gonna grind it out and get that franchise to where it needs to be. Like if you stuck like somebody like, if you stuck like a Giannis in Detroit, Giannis is gonna ride that out because Giannis has the mentality of I'm just gonna grind it out. We gonna make it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Exactly. Ayton doesn't strike me as a guy that you can drop in Detroit and be like, all right, we're gonna hinge everything on you and this other young guy, and y'all gonna make it work and y'all gonna be a contending team again. Ayton ain't cut like that.
I know I agree, but this is why I think we were disagreeing. I was saying it from the standpoint of that nigga don't have enough leverage to.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. But I'm just saying
where they sit, is where he's going.
No. You're now that part you're right. Like, we agree on that part. You're right.
Too. Yeah, he just genuinely wants paid, to be real. He wants the max. I guarantee.
Yeah.
If Detroit said, I will give you the max, that max extension, right? Because it's the money for him. And I think that also says something to players too. If you're willing to invest, you're telling me this other team didn't believe in me. You're saying, even Shaq said that, right? He said, that's why I left Orlando. He said, they kept saying, well, I don't know. Well, this man said, I gave him a number. This man said, let me go see what I can do. Not let me think. He said,
that's a good point. But he was also going to the Los Angeles Lakers. That's quite different than going to the Detroit.
Yeah, but you think that was a step down at the time. Like, let's be real. That nigga had just been to 2 back-to-back conference finals with Orlando, had a budding star next to him, and them niggas had Nick Van Exel and Cedric Ceballos.
That's true, but it's still the Lakers, bro.
Okay, no, I agree. But I still think, like,
I hear what you're saying, though. I hear what you're saying.
Because again, if I'm with an organization that I like, we're having success. I love them. I'm coming to the table. I'm ready to get paid. Right. Well, I don't know. We don't. Okay, them over there. I don't know them. Hey, we love you. We willing to give you. What is it gonna cost? If I've just gone through this situation, it don't matter what the basketball's like. This real life. You making me feel wanted. You making me feel appreciated.
That's true. That's a good point.
Right?
That's a good point.
Hey, I'll make this work. They care enough about me. They gonna care about my needs. If I tell them bring me some scores in, right? You make because it's like to do this for me. Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a good point. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and also the other thing that people don't think about is the Suns have a very dysfunctional organization. Like they just happen to get Chris Paul, happen to have a quality coach,
and that's why it makes it so crazy that they're walking with such confidence, especially like a Devin Booker. Like, granted, he's great. I'm a fan of Devin Booker, but my boy, like, let's not forget you wasn't making the playoffs without Chris Paul, my guy. Like it wasn't happening for you, bro. It was not happening for you. You was dropping 70. You was dropping 70 and catching L's still. Like
I think it all started with LeBron out, man. Let's see if the Lakers out first round.
Here you go.
Yeah, they just
the petty runs deep. The petty runs deep.
I don't know though, because I don't know. I was already honestly like it was a 2 and a 7 seed. Like the Lakers never gave me the scare even that year where I was like, ooh, they're just gonna really do this. I thought that it would go 7, but I thought the Suns would pull it out because the Suns were just a more complete team. Even then, because Bridges showed like flash. And again, like I think it's different when you catching somebody in the year where they're starting to surprise you because there's no game.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy because, and that's what I always say about when I talk to people about Kawhi. It's like it's different from being the hunter and being the hunted.
Yep.
And when he was the hunter, it was a lot easier for him to like excel because you don't see that coming. That's not, you don't predict that. Yeah. But the moment that he became the hunted and people knew what kind of player he was, like we know what to account for. We know your strengths. We know your weaknesses. We can game plan for you. He got exposed because it's like now we can pick apart what you can't quote unquote do well.
I think even with his, it's his profile. He's a two-way beast. But this is the thing. Even in his earlier years, he was getting like so physical with people defensively, right? Now he becomes one option on offense. Now that he's not only taking a beating on defense with having to guard the best player and create all the schemes because
but now
he's
you can be
right?
Yep.
And,
but not
and I got to score 30. Like that's tax. Guys are breaking.
Everybody can't do that. Everybody can't do that. Everybody can't do that. Body, no, he don't.
But yeah, you're right because that's the Giannis effect too. Giannis had he gradually came up, and it was easier because nobody was like looking for him. Like they weren't game planning for him. And then when he finally took off, and they were like, Miami was like that year they went to the bubble championship. Let's build a wall around this nigga. They built a wall real quick because they figured it out, and then everybody else started building walls, and Giannis takes over.
But then he figured out that he had to break that wall. Like he got a consistent enough jump shot. Now I'm not saying that he has a jumper, but it's consistent enough that you have to account for it. And that's all. That's all he needed. Because if I don't have to pile through 5 people, you know what I'm saying, all game anymore to get what I gotta get, and we can still be effective, and I can still be effective on the defensive end. That's when Milwaukee's at its best. When Giannis can just feel the game instead of I just gotta plunge through everybody, because that's not a winning formula. It just isn't. It's gonna burn out
at all. And what they did, the reason why they won that championship is what they started to do is one, they took them off ball, get the ball out of you. Let's get you on one of them sides. Let's get you in motion.
We're just gonna pin that side.
And what they did was they start flipping. And I love, like, listen, you give me a Middleton, Giannis pick and roll all game, them niggas eat. Like, pick your poison, because Middleton gonna middle range you to death.
Middleton is a smaller KD.
He is.
He's a small KD.
Damn near KD.
He's KD. He's literally KD without. He's KD without the height. Everything that KD can do, Chris Middleton can do as well. He's just not as tall. That's the literal difference. Is he's KD without the height.
He can play a little defense too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he's literally that. And so since we're on Middleton, I'm glad that you guys brought this up, because I did want to ask you guys about the Game 7 with Boston and Milwaukee. Now, here's what I'll say before I pass it off to you guys. Milwaukee definitely missed Chris Middleton, for sure. I feel like he definitely would have made a difference in this series. However, I still think that Boston was the better team. I still feel like Boston would have still went 7. I still feel like Boston would have won in 7. But because Milwaukee ended up getting blown out towards like the end of, the end of the game or whatever. But I still feel like, in 7, Boston would have took over. I just feel like it's Boston's time right now. I mean, right now, I think they're losing right now, if I'm not mistaken. But even
22-2.
Yeah. Miami. Yeah. As soon as I started, because when I first got on here, Boston was winning, and then Miami turned up. But still, like I said, I feel like Boston was the better team. But I want to ask you guys, what do you guys think about Jason Tatum's kind of ascension, like during these playoffs, like how he's kind of like etched his name a little bit higher in those rankings? Because I think we all were agreeing at one point that JT was a good player, but he hadn't reached the potential of being great yet. You know what I mean? So now we've kind of seen him. We've seen him in those battle-tested situations. What do we think about him now? What's the trajectory for Jason Tatum now? Jaylen, I'll start with you.
Back to James' point, I think it's really difficult to guard a team and, in this case, a player if you kind of like, you know what I'm saying, this is their time now. You kind of can't really game plan for that. Like, you don't know what he's...
Yeah. That's a good point.
But also, I mean, like you said, yeah, we thought he was good, but nobody thought that he'd play defense like that on KD. So
right.
I think it's
right.
What I'm seeing more about. I mean, his game is a subject in itself, but I think what I admire most about him is his will to win in these playoffs. I think. I mean, like, you know what I'm saying, and I get real sensitive about, you know, that Kobe thing, but I think
for sure he's a Kobe pupil though, so you can be, you can be, you know what I'm saying, he's definitely a Kobe pupil. He worked under Kobe, so you know.
Yeah, he's showing it. You know what I'm saying, he's really coming out there. You know what I'm saying, even if he's having a bad game, he still is aggressive at the end of the game. And you know, he's hitting crazy game winners. He's, like I said, playing defense and diving on. Like, I love it.
That
you to beat Giannis too, for this to be
Giannis and Katie and Kyrie.
This is supposed to be nobody. You know what I'm saying? Both of them are supposed to be here right now. You know? So, do that. I think he's one of those guys right now to deal with. I don't think it's a fluke.
Okay, perfect. I love that. What about you, James? What do you think?
Okay, so I want to jump on that, but I want to make sure I hit that point. I think we jumped real quick, but if you put Middleton back in the series, Giannis is great enough to where if Middleton gave us 16 points a game, they would have won that. Boston was the better team, but Giannis has a factor that Tatum does not. And like, Tatum is a guy where he can get you 40. He can get you 40, right? But he's not the guy where, hey, need 40. And he turns and he goes, okay. Giannis is like, get on my back, whatever you need, I'll go do it. Guaranteed. Like, Giannis didn't fail the Bucks. The Bucks failed him. Like, their supporting cast and their points per game were like, they were not keeping up with him, and he still single-handedly drugged that series. If you give him just a little bit of help, and you talk about a little bit of help, his second option, he's gonna pull that out. But I think two things could be true at once. I think it's still Giannis's time. I think Giannis is gonna be more like the Spurs, right? He ain't gonna win it every year, but he gonna win it. Be competitive.
I think
win
Giannis
it again sometime.
Second option was just as good as Jason Tatum's.
What?
Wait, no, say that again. No, Jaylen, say that again.
I think Giannis, which was Drew Holiday, I think his second option was just as good as Jaylen Brown in the series.
No, hell no. Not at this time.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I
think Jaylen Brown was
because the thing of it is with Drew Holiday's specialty is defense. Like, he's a defensive specialist. Like, he's a perfectionist at that. But that's not really what Milwaukee needed. They needed somebody else to score. Giannis needed another scorer. He needed another guy that he needed Chris Middleton. Like, he needed somebody that was gonna be KD-esque or Kyrie-esque.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? To be the Robin to his Batman. Drew Holiday ain't that guy. Like, he can score, but he's not a scorer. There's a difference between being able to score. There's a difference between being able to. It's the difference between being able to score and being a scorer. Like, there's a vast difference in that. Drew Holiday can score if given a perfect opportunity, but he's not a But he's not he can't create his own shot.
And you saw that in the series.
He can't play make and help others create their own shot. Jayden Brown can play defense. He can create his own shot, and he can also play make. There is a vast difference.
Can't create.
There's a vast difference.
Jrue Holiday can't create his own play, and
no, he cannot. That's not what he does. That's not what he does. That's not what he does.
Doesn't do that anymore. When he was younger, yes. When he was an all-star back in Philadelphia,
but right now that's not what he does. That's not what he's in Milwaukee's for. That's not what he's in Milwaukee's for. He's in Milwaukee to lock up your best player so that Giannis doesn't have to do it, and Giannis can go get his money. That's what Jrue Holiday's there for. He's not there to be a scorer. Like even when he was at his apex, when he was at his apex, he still wasn't like a scorer. He just somebody that he was more reliable than he is now in the scoring department, but that still was never really his game. Jaylen Brown, on the other hand, is the definition, as well as Jason Tatum, as a two-way player because he can lock you down on defense, and like James said, he can still give you 30. There's a vast difference between the two.
Number one on some of these other teams.
For sure. He would be, absolutely. Like if you saw him, yes,
bro.
Yes.
Everything is situation because if it's a situation where somebody's in the place and they're like, this is our guy, we're gonna build around him. That's it. That's how they pick it. And so like Jaylen Brown is number 2. No matter what he wants to do in Boston, he's gonna be number 2.
That's why the Kyrie situation didn't work because they really had 3 number 1s on one team. Thanks. And nobody was willing to kind of take that step down and be like, all right, I'm gonna be the number 2. I'm gonna be the number, like nobody wanted to be Chris Bosh. You know what I'm saying? Like, or Kevin Love. Like it was like, no, I'm a number 1, I'm a number 1, I'm a number 1. And then Kyrie's not really a great leader, so that culminates everything else. But I mean, that's why that situation didn't work because, like James said, like Jaylen Brown, if he's not on the Celtics playing behind Jason Tatum, he's a number 1. Like if you put him in Detroit or Cleveland or where like OKC, somewhere like that, like Orlando, like he's a number 1. He's a number 1, but he's playing behind.
Not number 1 nowhere in the league right now.
No, Jrue Holiday is not gonna ever be a number 1, bro. He's not.
The second best player, you already got this wide margin, bro. And plus they're younger.
Exactly.
Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown are younger too. Like that shit matters, man.
He won't even be number 1 or 2 with the Rockets.
Huh?
He won't even be number 1 or 2 with the Rockets, huh?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. What's the name? Jalen Green down. He good.
No.
He a good.
But I think
I like Kevin Porter.
I like Kevin Porter too. But I think with Jason Tatum, just so we'll wrap it up after this. But I think his ascension is I salute it. I think it should definitely be applauded because I always point this out about Jason Tatum is I remember his first year when he first came in, how great he was and how, he got all this praise and all this acclaim because he was playing so well. And then I remember that sophomore year where he kind of had a sophomore slump a little bit, like in the first half of the season where he wasn't playing that great. And the news got out that he trained with Kobe. So that was like the running joke. It was like, oh, like he got trained by the wrong guy. Now he's just trying to be a gunner and he's this, and this. Like I remember, and he was, and he absolutely, but because he hadn't put it together yet. He hadn't figured it out. And I was thinking in my head this whole time, I was like, he's a young guy. Like give him time to put it all together so the game could come to him and he can make it make sense. Yeah. And then, in the latter half of the season, he started to come about. And then in that third year, he took a leap, and then he's just been taking leaps ever since. And so I think that for him to be such a young player, that's such a testament to his mental toughness, because there's a lot of young players that couldn't have taken that. And he's playing for a storied franchise. Yeah, he's not playing for Orlando. He's not playing for
Orlando.
Like an Orlando. He's not. You know what I'm saying? He's not playing for like an Orlando, or he's not playing for like a team that just like the Pelicans. Like he's not playing for a team. Like he's playing for the Boston Celtics, where they've had Larry Bird and Paul Pierce and all these great, He gave Al Horford hope. That part, like, I mean, like, he gave him the fountain of youth for real. Like, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, that's, like I said, that's a lot for a young player to take. So the fact that he's been able to overcome that and become even better outside of that situation, he gets the utmost respect from me, because you can't put everybody in that situation. Like, you can't throw everybody in that water and expect them to swim. Like, you know, everybody ain't cut out like that. Would you say?
Yeah, how old is he? Like 24?
Yeah, he's like 24, 25. He's not even at his apex yet. He's not even still like where he's put his complete game together. And that's what makes it so scary, is that he still hasn't even tapped into his prime yet. So imagine once he gets into his prime and he's really in his bag and the game is just flowing to him instead of him, you know, trying to figure things out. It just comes to him. He's going to be scary for years to come. Like, the league is in such great hands. Like, it makes me so excited to watch the league for years to come, because there's so much talent. There's so much talent.
Everywhere.
So much talent. Both conferences. Both conferences. And the talent is getting better. The talent is getting better and better, though. Even like when you look at like college players, high school players that are not even in college yet. Like some of the high school players that I'm seeing right now are insane already. Like, and they're so poised. They have such a maturity to their game. Like, the NBA is going to be in good hands for years to come.
Agreed.
For sure.
And they all these stars are super young.
Super young. But John's like, he's like about to turn 23. Luka's 23 right now. He's 23 years old right now.
I know, that's nuts. And in the finals, bro, in the Eastern Conference final, like this Western Conference, that's not how, you know, the old guard ain't never been that way. Like, think about it, when it was like when Boston and the Pistons and Bulls and all that kind of stuff, it was, you had to wait until you was 27,
28. Yes. I recall. I'm right here, OG basketball. I'm right here. Trust me, I know.
Yeah, I like Tatum's game. I really do. I think, like I said, he's been to a lot of finals already. That's great. Like 3 out of 5 years. That's incredible.
Yeah.
He's been through different eras too. Had different point guards, different coaches. Usually that doesn't bode well for a player, right?
Especially for a young player.
Yes.
That's what makes it so impressive, is because he's so young and he's had to go through so many, like you said, ups and downs, so many peaks and valleys and changes and things of that nature, and he still has been able to stay afloat, you know, and get better. Like I said, he hasn't even reached his apex. Like, he hasn't even got to the point where it's prime yet, where it's just like everything makes sense, because you can always tell when that switch flips, and you know what I'm saying, and everything just makes sense. And he's not even there yet. That's the craziest part. He's not even there yet.
That's real.
Jimmy Butler had 41 points. Sheesh.
Damn, look, Jimmy's sneaking up on nigga. He might give him a ring, bro. Jimmy might run as the number.
He might get it. Hey, he might get him one, because Miami's a good team. He might get him one. They're a really good team.
I think the Heat can do something with the Warriors.
Yeah,
I think so. I think they have the length. They have to have the athleticism to stay with them, and it all hinges on. I mean, I know they got other role players that have been playing great for them, but it still hinges on that big three.
These ain't the same Warriors, bro. Like,
it definitely ain't the short shot that it was before.
Yeah, it's sure not. It
ain't the short shot.
You get physical with them. They're smaller too, actually.
And they turn the ball over a lot. And if you can capitalize on, and Miami's a great shooting team. If you can capitalize on those turnovers, that's why Memphis didn't beat them, is because they didn't capitalize on a lot of those turnovers. If they could have capitalized on those turnovers, they'd be in the Western Conference Finals right now, because Golden State has always been, but even more so now, very careless with the ball.
And mediocre defense too.
They don't play the same. Draymond ain't the same lockdown defender that he once was. I know he likes to think he is, but he ain't. And neither is Clay. Those two major leg surgeries.
Besides that one game 6.
Yeah, that's the best game that I've seen the Warriors play in the playoffs, was that game 6.
Yeah, they better. I hope. I mean, if they got Mo, if they bring it to Luka and them, I'm with it. But I ain't seen it consistently, at least.
All I know is I was telling somebody earlier, like they better not turn the ball over against Dallas the way they did against Memphis, because it ain't gonna bode well if they do. Because Dallas got shooters. Dallas got people that can knock down shots.
The one thing about why I have the Warriors winning that series though is because the Warriors have enough people that can go off that everybody don't have to go off, right?
That's
so
true.
It's not trying to game plan to stop two individuals from going off. Like this is like, well, if we game plan for Steph Curry, Jordan Poole gonna go off. If we start getting on Jordan Poole, we're leaving Clay. Clay will get hot. Like Clay can still get hot. He can still do that.
But it just takes a lot longer than what it used to be.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like when if you try to take away, like, because you can't take away everything, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody always chooses what to take away. So whatever you decide to take away from them, the problem is the other thing can go off.
That's true.
Right? That's the problem. It's like if you go down a list of players, right, on both squads, okay, Luka gets me 30. Okay. Steph gets me 30. Okay, cancel. All right. Spencer can give me 22. So can Jordan Poole. Cancel. Clay can give me 20. So can Jim the dude. But after that, now you got 15 from Kuminga, Draymond.
Like that's what I'm saying. Dallas still has they have enough to go to combat that. Like they got enough with their starting five. They got a bench. They got great coaching. Like they can rotate a lot of different. They have a lot more options than like Memphis had and Denver had. That's why I give them a more fairer shot. Like I mean, I'm not gonna be surprised, of course, if Golden State wins. But
what you got? What do you have it? What are you calling it in?
I think it goes 7. I can see it going 7.
Who wins?
If it goes 7, I will go Golden State. I think Golden State would close it out in 7. But I can potentially this is one of those things where I have to see like at least a game or two where I can give you like a real synopsis of what I think. But like if you putting pressure on me right now and I had to choose, I would say that it goes 7 and I think Golden State would close it out. But I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas could do it too, because we didn't think they was gonna close out Phoenix either, but they figured something out and they got a coach. They don't have, you know what I'm saying? And honestly, Mike Brown ain't a good coach as we've seen. And Steve Kerr ain't all that great of a coach either. He just got really good players. He has really good players.
Yeah, I agree. I've never seen.
Like,
well,
I will like he's drawing up. No, you know what I mean.
I will give him credit for the death lineup though, because I think that changed a lot for them, and it culturally made.
You had KD, Clay, and Steph.
But before that, the year before, like when they won the first championship, it was like LeBron.
Yeah. And then but you had a younger Andre Iguodala, you had Steph, you had Clay, and then Draymond was also a lot younger and more agile. So I feel that, but still, like I don't. He ain't scheming up nothing. Like you got 300 great. You had 200 great.
Yeah, that's fair.
On team, man. Like come on, man. But you really got to scheme for those dudes, like.
That's fair.
Steph be out there just running around figuring stuff out.
But what about the like the kind of like the what am I trying to call it? The the screening actions and stuff to get these guys open, because I think even as great as shooters as they were under Mark Jackson, I thought they had a great squad under Mark Jackson. I think that they unlocked something the way Steve Kerr would scheme and took Steph Curry off the ball. Like he really did that. Steph was more on ball when he was.
That's true, but I feel like he could have done the same thing with Mark. I just feel like they were that year before when they didn't make the finals and Mark Jackson ended up getting fired at the end of the year. I still feel like in that next year they still would have won, because I feel like I just feel like they had youth and just inexperience, and so like they got, you know, they went through kind of every defensive they've ever, because I mean Steph was Steph at that point. Like he was shooting the lights out of the gym at that point. But I think that they just were young and they weren't tough enough. They weren't battle tested enough. But I think that coming into that next year, they came into that next year with a whole nother confidence, a whole nother swagger, a whole nother like, all right, we didn't been through it all at this point. So like now we just gonna go to work at this, like, I don't know, man. Like I can't give all the credit to Steve Kerr for that. I just feel like he inherited a gym that was already turning into a diamond, regardless of who was there. It was just like, you know what I'm saying? If you can just keep the offense flowing pretty much in the same way that it was, like, it was gonna be a great opportunity to win.
I'm definitely team Mark Jackson, and I agree with everything you say. I just always like to play devil's advocate. I'll give you one more.
I hear you.
Okay. It was Steve Kerr's idea to bring Iguodala off the bench, which really did unlock a chemistry kind of portal.
That is true. I'll give you, definitely. I will give you that for sure. You're right about that.
So
absolutely.
I think there were little. I think, and maybe it's this. Maybe two things are true at one time. Maybe he's terrible at schemes and shit, but he's great at like rotation. Like I know.
Yeah. I would agree. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that for sure. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like you hit it on the head. It's those, like, it's two things that can be true at the same time. It's like you got, you know what I'm saying, you have the fact that he's great at rotations, but he's also not. He's not but then in the same sense, you could say like he don't really have to be, because he got such great talent. Like, you don't really got a scheme for that. Like, you know what I'm saying? So
however they feeling tonight.
Huh?
However they feeling tonight.
Yeah, pretty much however they, like, what y'all want to do. Like, I feel like he come to the game with a game plan, and he's like, all right, this is what I'm thinking, but what you got? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm 30.
Like, they're all high IQ players. So it's like you don't really need to, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of like trying to quote unquote coach Bron. You don't really gotta coach Bron. Like, Bron is Bron, but you could come in there with an idea. But if he sees something else, are you really gonna buck that and be like, nah, bro, we gotta go with this 2-3 real quick, and we gotta, like, no, bro. You be like, all right, you got it. You see it, you got it. Like,
that is right. Though.
Huh?
You know that, like, they did that with the Run TMC.
Yeah.
The Golden State Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
They did that. They said that he was just telling him, he said, listen, I'm never gonna call plays. I just need y'all to just be disciplined. And they never called plays, and all of them were averaging like over 22 points a game. Like, it's just because they can do it.
It just works.
Like,
Sometimes it just works. For sure. But all right, fellas, this has been an amazing episode. Thank y'all so much for taking time out of y'all day and locking in with me. I really appreciate it. We got to do this again sometime soon, because I know, we all gonna be watching the Eastern Conference Finals, Western Conference Finals. So I'm thinking maybe once it maybe gets in the middle of each series, we'll lock in again, and then once we got finals decided between Eastern Conference and Western Conference, we'll lock in before that, and then we'll lock in in the middle during the finals, and then after the finals out, we'll do like the finals wrap up. Is that cool with y'all? Y'all down with that? Y'all rolling with that?
That's dope. I'm with that.
All right, for sure. Well, let's go ahead and plan for that. We'll definitely be in touch. Y'all know we got a group chat, so we'll be in touch. But again, I appreciate you, James Wade. Let the people know what you got going on. Let them know what you're promoting, where they can find you, all those things of that nature.
Yeah, man. Follow me on I Am James Wade on everything. I Am James Wade, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, all of that. The new album, Go Where Love Is, over 1,000 streams.
Talk about it.
We moving, bro. I don't play no games out here. So, man, prenup the single and video is dropping next month. So, yeah, we finna, bro. So we out here. Lights.
Yeah, for sure. Jaylen, let the people know that they can find you, what you got going on. If you're promoting anything, let us know what's going on with you, big dog.
You can find me on Instagram at DripStarJam. That's basically the where you can find me on socials, and
The CEO, the man with the plan in his hand. Y'all see him?
Yeah. Be expecting shows for the rest of the year, man. Got one got one I'm gonna do this summer in Atlanta, and then me and James we're gonna hit one off up there in Vegas too.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, I mean if you're gonna go
We
to
already
Vegas, I mean you gotta swing this way and come to Cali too, man.
Oh man, you know we up there. We gonna tear the West Coast up.
Yeah,
Let's
for
go.
sure. Yes,
Yeah.
love to see you, love to hear it, fellas. But again, I appreciate y'all locking in with me. It's another episode of From the Ground Up. Y'all know where to find me. Sensei_33 on everything. Just follow everything I'm doing. I got so much going on. I can't even talk about everything right now. But just know I got some stuff coming, so make sure y'all keep it locked for sure. But again, fellas, thank y'all so much for locking in with me, and we're gonna be at this thing again.
All right.
All right, love y'all. We at this thing.
All right.
All right.